I'll record this and you guys can have a recording of it as well.
Thank you.
If there's any specific things that we talk about that we don't have, and I think, oops. So I'm not sure if you're here or if you can even speak, but hi. Or that's what I was seeing if he was on the chat window. Oh, that was
yeah, I'm here.
He's here. Hey, Ty.
I'm here.
Hey, Ty, if you ever find the remote to this Vizio in our office, be really nice so we can turn the volume up, because I don't think there's any other way of doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look and see what we can do. Sorry, I can't join you guys today. I miss joining you in office.
We're actually hooked up on the TV in our conference office. Nice setup.
Yeah. Very comfortable.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like, if we had a lounge chair, it'd be even better, right? Kick back and relax. Yeah. Here, use this. So, anyhow. So here's your current funnel. From the research, we can see that your current funnel is broken to some extent and has not defined all of the necessary levels, which is what we've determined to work on and what to do. So here's the basic story brand that we went through. You have your attractive character, or the hero, or the person that we're really trying to get in front of. As a matter of fact, I've been listening to Donald Miller's podcast on the story brand. I don't know if you guys listen to podcasts or whatever, but it's called Building Your Story Brand by Donald Miller, the author of this book. And he goes through each of these 7 segments in a lot of detail. It's been fun to listen to and listen to other businesses and how they implemented certain aspects of that. But the character, we talked a lot about the character, and we'll give you a deliverable and what that looks like. We determined what the problems were, and we had a list of quite a few. Played around with the guide, understanding how we can best position you to win. Gave some ideas in terms of game plan, value ladder, and I believe in here we'll talk a little bit more about that. Recognize what the calls to action would be, and then the success that comes from that, or running from failure. So as we talked about before, really these first 2 sections are what we consider the discovery phase. The guide and the plan is our breakthrough phase, and then these 2 would be our transformation phase. And this is fun because we haven't even executed yet. Right. We've gone through the first 2 phases. Now it's time to get to work and really put all this stuff into play.
Yeah.
Figure out how the messaging comes together and how we can increase revenue for the organization as a whole. So I'm super excited about that. We might have hacked a few pictures.
Wind up the website.
That's okay. You know what? I love it when people do that. I can't stand it when people email me and they're like, "Could you send me like a logo?" I'm like, do you not have the wherewithal to just go to my Facebook page, right click and download?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm like, it's so easy. It's right there. So.
Yeah, so if we looked at, and this was a shot at kind of the one-liner, right? And this isn't probably the final, it's been a process trying to come up with this. And again, you'll have access to this. So if you want to take notes, you're welcome to, but we'll get you this whole report. But one of the thoughts that we came up with collectively was escape into expression and acceptance with Hannah Lynn's Any Age Coloring Books. It was a dialogue that we went through a lot of different times, and we talked about those internal pain points of expression and acceptance and being part of the community, being part of something bigger. I'm not sure if this is like the perfect one-liner.
Right.
I think we can filter through it as we continue to work together, right? But it's kind of a good one-line framework. Let's start with something.
The general message.
And general message, and we can refine it as we continue to grow the community and gain a better understanding of the response of it. So the philosophy that we put together of this one specific one-liner, differentiation is a key aspect of effectively marketing a business, is what tells the people why you're superior to other businesses, competitors in the space. You can't beat other businesses based on cost, then perhaps you can beat them based on luxury, convenience, customer service. In your case, the unique differentiator comes down to building a tribe of like-minded individuals, bringing together the fans and fighters, and we talked a lot about that. We've come to find that your unique differentiator lies in these following philosophies. Your target demographic wants to feel empowered with a safe place for self-expression. And that's the power of that group that you've created and continue to build out in terms of your authenticity. With your current successes, your demographic wants 2 things: direct access to the artist on some level, insights into your work talent story, as well as a part of a larger community. They want to be able to connect in depth with you, as well as find other people that are in that same path of of discovery, if you will. This niche is highly addictive for stress release and creative expression. I actually love it when my daughter colors because it really is for her. It's just like her release.
Yeah.
She'll get lost in a piece for
hours. Yeah.
And then she'll come out. She's so proud of what she did.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to watch.
It's cool
her.
that you're able to see it like firsthand, you know, because it really is something totally unique and different. When I was doing my artwork years ago, before coloring books were even a thing, or coloring pages were a thing in my world, it was like I would sit down and I would paint for hours, and I go, I wish everybody could do this because it's so cool. Like you just get completely lost in it, and so now people can. So cool.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The idea of escaping into a zone of goodwill hits all of your characters' buckets. That's a key critical component.
Yes.
The idea of a strong female role and uplifting message will catapult you past your competitors and other niche-based artists. So the self-ideation and the ability for customers to create their own story is impactful and engaging. These are some of the philosophies behind the one-liner. So that builds the framework of kind of where we're going with the rest of the presentation. Now we're going to deliver the findings as well as some recommendations throughout that process in terms of what the next steps are. So I really love this. This quote right here, this quote right here is really the key point of differentiation in terms of opening the story gap, right? Because it was interesting because I was listening to the podcast. What it said, if you're trying to tell your customers the story, then you don't understand the story very well. And we talked a lot about that. We talked about how do we tell your story? How do we tell your story? And then he said, you need to reverse engineer it and think, how can I include my customers in my story?
Right. Versus
tell them a story. Right? I think about all the times when I was little and my mom used to share stories with us all the time, and she would always use my name in the story. Right. And as a result, I was involved. I was like, what am I doing next, Yeah. And I do that with my kids all the time. Like my son, we have this rock monster story that every time it's different, but he's the prince that saves the community, right?
Yeah.
But when you involve them in the story, it changes that paradigm versus just saying, well, here's really who we are. Here's our woodline that tells us about our story. Right. So think about that in terms of context as we create the content and as you continue to build content. How do we inclusive of people in your story, and how do you help them see themselves in the story versus just sharing with them the story?
Well, It's funny that you say that, because the Kickstarter project that I'm doing, I got the idea to do the front cover the way that I wanted to do it, and then use the inside and the back, and then the inside back cover to feature 90 different coloring pages from my fans as part of the Kickstarter. So awesome. Like some of them will be winnable, where they'll be in a certain tier where there'll be 20 spots up for grab, and then some will be in a higher tier that are guaranteed, basically paid or whatever. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, like why not? Why wouldn't you
way
want
cool.
to feature?
Yeah, it reminds me of, if you remember that celebrity that worked with it, it reminds me of that exact process. We engaged them in the process of voting on which cover it should be for the ebook, and that generated a significant amount of sales because we included it in the process.
Yeah.
So fun. I love the way your mind works. But a story only gets started when we define something the customer wants, right? And that's really where we need to, in this discovery phase, we can really build some value. So after much deliberation and consideration, we consider the specific characters or buckets that need personalized marketing strategy attention. You've got your fans and you've got your fighters.
Yep.
It's fun to define that, right? Because now it takes away from I have to please everyone to I need to create strategies to meet my niches, because more of these people will come as we do that. So, and it's fun to put things from a bucket perspective, because we found that even if it's, your attractive character is a couple of different aspects or types of buckets, then your marketing messages can change as well and be delivered in those buckets appropriately so that the message is succinct and personalized for those people. So, pain points. What do they want? Right? We already went through that through the beginning of that, but we're trying to build this gap between the customer and what you guys are trying to accomplish in terms of the story gap, right? The goal here is to build a full bucket of each character that can be utilized as a segmented marketing strategy. So we talked in a lot of depth in terms of the pain points of the internal, the external as well as the philosophical pain points. So if we look at this, we look and say, okay, what do your customers want as it relates to your products and services? And a lot of this is just reporting, right? Conserving financial resources, conserving time, building social networks, gaining status, accumulation of resources, desires to be generous, and desires for meaning. There was as I was listening to this presentation, he talked about and I'll send this to you. He talked about super intriguing. This pyramid, it's kind of like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but in terms of marketing. And Bain Capital, which was run for years by Mitt Romney, right? He came up with this pyramid of basic fundamental needs. And as Donald Miller was sharing this, he said, if we can figure out how to meet the target demographic where they are, then, and bring this in context, then you win every time. So, let me see if I can bring it up here. Let's see, it was in January. Got too many, you know how it is. Go through your phone. Like, I have all these pictures on my phone.
I came up with an idea for an app and translated it a little bit. I think you should have 2 camera buttons on your phone. One that's a temporary camera, and it like dumps every 3 days. You know, like when you take pictures at the grocery store, like asking your significant other, like, is this what you wanted? You're like, why would you want it? It's not a sentimental picture you're gonna want 3 years from now. You know,
right?
So you just get rid of it.
Yeah. So let me just pull this up real quick. So I want you to see this. It's actually super intriguing. It's called the elements of the value. There you go. Ty, can you guys see my screen still?
I can see it. I can still see the presentation though. Are you showing something else that you're trying to find on your phone?
Let me just share my screen. Maybe if it'll load. Loading.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Zoom. Okay. So if we look at it in context, right, you've got your basic functional needs that people need to see and be a part of, right? So you've got your saving time, simplification, making money, reduce risk, organization, integration, connection, information, sensory appeal, variety, quality, reduce cost of warehouse. So these are the basic core fundamental things from a marketing perspective.
Right.
That if we can answer these questions, then we can start moving them up the value chain. So you have the functional connection, you have the emotional connections, right? Reduces anxiety, plays a huge role in that.
Wow.
If we can make sure the messaging in the beginning in terms of growing your tribe meets this functional element,
then you move up.
then we move up to the next step, the next tier. And what I love about what you're doing in context is the sheer fact that as we move up this, right, we're talking about self-actualization and your affiliation and belonging in terms of your community build to get to this self-transcendence, which is that self-actualization at a higher level of I'm here. And this is where you're going to have your highest end, highest paying customers because they feel like you're meeting the basic, the emotion, the functional, the emotional, the life-changing, and the social impact.
The
needs that they
value is
need
so
to.
much more intrinsic. It's way more than, you know, it's like when somebody decides they're going to spend $8 on a coloring book, you know, it's like, it's hours and hours and hours worth of entertainment value for them. You know, it's huge. It's not just a picture that they look at or whatever, you know, it's something that they engage with that gives them, I mean, if they divided out how many hours they got out of the entertainment value of it, they'd be like, it's like a penny a page.
That's exactly right. You know? That's exactly right. So this is something to keep in mind. And Ty, when you get a minute, would you add this into the presentation? I think it'd be a good thing to make sure that that's part of the presentation as well, so that you can see this. anyway, I wanted to bring that into play here, just because if we recognize that that's the steps in that value process of how we're trying to get there, you can see some of these ideas right here: conserving financial resource, conserving time. These are some of the basic foundational things that we talked about, right? And then as you move up from an emotional perspective, the desire to be generous, and we could even elaborate on this in more depth to see how we can get to that self-actualization and that self-transformation at the highest end of the spectrum. So kind of fun information to see how all this is coming together, and how, it's always fun to see how you bring different ideas and tactics and strategies, and they fit into one to help make sure that the message is cohesive across the board. So let's talk external pain points. In our these two buckets we've identified: the fans, external pain point, the need for admiration; hobby-based, want to do something or want something to do; accessibility and connection on what they're working on; and same connections, passions as other successful tribes. And again, we define those in terms of your raving fans at your Comic-Con group.
Yep.
I think this is probably, if I were to guess in terms of buckets, this will become 20 to, I don't know, I was going to say the opposite. This becomes your 20 to 30% of your bucket,
It is.
and this becomes your 70 to 80%.
It is, because naturally it's already gone that way. It started with fans only. I didn't even have coloring pages in the beginning. I was simply funded on people who just wanted to own my artwork in color.
Yeah.
And they were buying and buying and buying. And then when I started doing the coloring pages, I didn't know why it was happening. But now, of course, I realize and I recognize it's all part of that collaboration and the entertainment value and just the value in general. The monetary value that they're giving me is so much smaller than the value that they're getting out of the coloring book, because of the nature of the product itself. So I would agree with you. It's my income is I would have no business at all if I didn't have my coloring books. I turned around and focused on it for a while. I was making $20,000 a year off of fans in the beginning, but it's more difficult to grow.
Well, what's fun is as we go through that self-actualization triangle, right? Your fans almost begin in the basic foundational elements of that. They might get some emotional attachment. For the most part, though, it's just the core basic needs of wanting to be a part of something.
Right.
And those kind of go in the emotional the next year anyway. But I almost see this natural progression of raving fans that finally attach to the emotional element and become those fighters as part of that.
Right.
Because they're fighting something in their life: depression, physical pain, disability, therapy, emotional connections, anxiety. They're fighting something that they really want to uncover that they might not have defined just being a fan of your work.
Right.
Because of the actual artwork, to a place of release, right?
Yeah.
So I do see it as a smaller portion. Yeah, I see it as a smaller portion, but almost transitioning it into the fighters. And that's where, as you look back at the triangle, that's where it really, let's move up here for a second. As you look back at the triangle, I almost see that transition as, you're doing some of the basic functional and emotional connections in your fans, but this sense of belonging, this self-transcendence, providing hope, is where you're giving them a solution, which moves them into that next tier of fighters.
Right. Yeah. At first, it's just like, oh, this is cute, and then they kind of get deeper and deeper into it, and they're like, oh, this is actually a lot more than just that,
Yeah. And that's the exciting part, is there is so much more beyond the foundational, here's what we do, right?
Yes.
Which is why I still don't think we're quite there with the one-liner, but we have a framework for that. So, and we can move beyond that. So here's some of the internal philosophical. Nostalgic past, obviously, community and tribe would be the fans. Almost the same over in the fighters, the community and tribe. Need for connection in the digital age. Fear of missing out, or FOMO. Admiration, women's empowerment. Those all, help facilitate that fan growth. But then again, it's almost like the temporary versus the long-term feeling and connection to the brand. Fighters, that's connection to your story, treatment, relaxation. And I would almost even say, finding an out, finding a release over on this side as well. So I guess relaxation is a phrase. So note on personalization and marketing, it's been proven that personalization is the modern silver bullet to success. You've seen that as you've communicated and connected individually with your fans and your fighters. That's where the massive connection and feeling of attachment has come for you. So one thing we make a suggestion, obviously, is cater your messages to your individualized characters, and you'll be more successful. We just discussed that before. Research actually shows that personalized campaigns produces a 41% higher conversion rate than generalized campaigns.
Yeah, and if there's a way that, in my MailChimp account, it shows, it says you can add their name, like address it to their name, but I don't think I'm collecting names. In ClickFunnels, it's like just their email. So that makes it difficult. But on Facebook and things like that, when I message people or if, like all these people I was trying to, like this exodus to transfer over, every single person was individually messaged with their name and everything. Because it's like they want to be called by their name.
That's
they
right.
want to know that you see what they're doing, that you see their name, and I mean it's not that much
Exactly
to
right.
ask for.
It's not, and it's not a barrier of entry, right? They're more likely to give you their name than they are their email, or especially their credit card. But
Right.
more likely to give you their name than putting in an email.
Right. But
So
somehow I didn't
capture that
maybe,
yet.
Yeah, I didn't put that in my ClickFunnels thing. I just did the email.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
probably need to
We can
change
update that for sure. So now let's go right into the breakthrough. And this is where it gets really fun. The day we stop losing sleep over the success of our business and start losing sleep over the success of our customers is the day our business will start to grow again. Profound, right? And the guide simply plays the role. The guide isn't the hero. It's not the person that's really trying to change the dynamic.
It's
literally
interesting
is.
because when I, in my VIP group on Facebook and stuff, when I'm working on a book, I have a hard time telling them what a deadline will be when I'm working on a book because a lot of things come up and there are certain things. Now my VIP group, the image is due on the 1st. I've never been late. It's not, that won't ever happen. It's one page. It's not that difficult for me to get through, but an entire book can sometimes, there's things that can get in the way if I'm working over a month's time. Kids get sick, stuff happens. So I don't usually set the date until it's really close, but I can't tell you how many people are like, I thank you so much for working so hard for us. You just did such a good job. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get this book done so y'all can give me the money that you've been promising. But yeah, that's how they see it.
Well, but they feel they're part of it.
Because
right.
I'm serving them. They
That's right.
want new material. They want new content. They're already like, when's the next book coming out? And I'm like, well, looking at my schedule, it's gonna be a little bit, but
I'm gonna go do one while I'm on vacation.
yeah, right.
I get like, she's not on the, go through email too much. We're on
Yeah,
vacation.
right.
It's like, no, we're on
We're on
vacation.
vacation. We're on
Yeah.
vacation. We're not on vacation. We're on vacation.
Yeah, launch a Kickstarter and then 2 days later.
It should be okay though. I mean, if I have a Kickstarter running, I mean,
Don't answer any questions for 2 weeks of the first 2 weeks of it. That'd be great.
Yeah, no.
it's okay.
We need to talk about that.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about optimized funnels here for a minute. The idea with the new optimized funnel is to build on the concept of authority and empathy with each of the target buckets of characters, right? The more specific, the more successful. And a vast majority of the optimization of funnels comes within the first 3 tiers of our funnel. Your brand awareness, building brand awareness, exposing that brand awareness, and capturing more brand awareness with people that don't know much about you and your marketing as it is today, right?
Okay.
The second element of that, and we talked about this in a lot of depth, the 4 E's: education, entertainment, engagement, experience. You're doing a good job of that. We're going to just provide some more value on how to build on that, right? And then social proof, which that's no-brainer for what you got going on. Let's talk about in our eyes, there's 4 simple ways that you can establish yourself as the authority through empathy. Stories. The most important way to build empathy with your tribe is to relate. Similar to what we were talking about before.
Right.
The reason they follow and support you is because your story is similar to theirs. And this is where you include, as the guide, you include them in the process. So I love the concept of what you're coming up with from a Kickstarter campaign perspective. Tell and relate a story with engaging, organic / paid content.
Okay.
Tyler's thrown me under the bus there.
Okay.
And the reason why I say paid
paid,
in addition, because as you're creating this engaging organic content, if you put ad dollars behind that, it just lights it on fire.
Agreed.
It does. It really
Facebook
does.
knows what they're doing. They're
They
like,
do.
look, this is getting a lot of engagement. You might want to get this up there because
That's
if you get in front of
exactly
more people, they're also going to be more likely to be engaged.
That's
You don't
exactly right.
pay for something that's not doing very well
That's
to, to try to
Yeah,
catalyze it.
and Facebook limits that, right? They say this is your relevance score is
Right.
at a 2 or a 1. Therefore,
Right.
your organic reach, even if you're paying dollars for it, is going to be less because we want engaging content. We want people to engage with the process
Right.
and gain momentum. And we want it to be relevant. I mean, think about it, right? Facebook isn't doing anything different than what Google has done,
Right.
right? Because we all understand what SEO is, right? Search engine optimization is about how long can I keep someone on my page? Facebook's doing the same thing. How long can I keep someone on my post? Which is why we've talked about this before. Long form posting is a
Right.
powerful play.
Right.
Because if they're noticing that they're staying longer on a post and they're saying it's more relevant, therefore they're going to give you more organic reach.
Yeah, it's Facebook. That's their business.
That's their
They just
business.
have to take advantage of the synergy of it and go, okay, well, maybe I should listen to this. You know, I've gotten quite a few emails from like marketing experts from Facebook that like want to have conversations with me. How should I do that? Should I what?
It's Facebook themselves.
Right.
Sure. I mean, sometimes Facebook has insight. We talk to them all the time, right? They send us a message. I'm like, yes, please, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because we never know. I mean, the funny thing is we know more than most of the people that work at Facebook how the advertising
Right.
product works.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of doing it versus teaching it, right?
Mhm.
So, but it's always great to get insights because if you can find a Facebook rep that will work hand in hand with you, it's like having a Google rep that's working hand in hand with a pay-per-click advertising
Right.
agency. They can give them insights to help them create their more successful campaigns based on how they've built the algorithm.
Mhm.
So yeah, totally. Like it's no like knock on what we're doing because it's not another agency that's having that conversation.
Right.
It's Facebook.com, right?
Right.
It's the book face.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are trying to
Yeah.
talk with you because they see the value, and most of the time they won't reach out unless they recognize that there is value.
Well, I'm spending like $400 a month on this, $15 a day
Mhm.
campaign. It's just brand awareness,
Mhm.
and it's working really well. It's the one
Right.
that you said to turn off, and then I turn right back on.
Well,
I'm-
you showed me what it was doing, right? We're like, no,
Yeah.
you need to turn
You're
it
like,
back
how
on.
much?
Like 9
How much?
cents
I'm like,
a
whoa,
month.
turn that
Keep
thing.
it.
How many
Nice.
likes? Do it. Right?
Yeah, so I'm getting about 4,000 likes a month on that, and the
Keep
post
going.
and the
Bump
post
it up.
itself.
Is it just US?
Well, the post it is mostly US. The post itself has about I think 19,000 views. It's just a little slideshow.
Mhm.
Me with a picture at the end, big
Sure.
smile.
Sure.
So it's just a little slideshow and really short one line, brand awareness type of thing. And it's gotten, I think it's like 19,000 views or something. And then there's like, over 800 shares.
Stumbled
People
across it
share it
once
all the
because it's
time.
exempt to anybody who already likes your page.
Mhm.
So I didn't see it. You kept
Right.
talking about it. I'm like, where is this? I haven't seen it.
Right.
I finally
It's
had
just
seen
for
it,
new
but-
people. So it's, and
Smart.
people comment on it. They tag their friends. They say, oh, this would be really cute for Michaela, blah, 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 or whatever. And
Yeah.
so people kind of, they ask questions, where can I get your books? And I hop on there and I answer the questions. But people share it every day. I mean, it's got over 800 shares. So
Beautiful.
I'm like,
Keep that thing.
just keep it cruising.
Don't take my advice
Yeah.
for that. I told you not to.
Just keep
After
it
you showed me
cruising.
the statistics, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you need to turn that thing back on like right now.
Yeah. So that
I-
is
I
really
can
good
be-
because,
I can be surprised. I mean, that's the cool thing about Facebook ad product is it's a testing. Some things
Right.
work. You might turn on a different ad set with the exact same thing,
Mhm.
and you get $2 cost per click or
it's
cost
true.
per
And
like.
that's what I've learned
Right?
that like you have to keep it going. Like don't
Yes.
stop it,
Yes.
don't change it, don't adjust it.
Yep.
Because if you stop it and you try to go back in, something about that
That's
process,
right.
like it just stops,
just stops.
the
That's
synergy.
right.
It
That's
just
right.
doesn't work.
Yeah, just
very
keep it
well.
going. Just keep it going. Keep that thing running as long as you continue to get that cost per like.
Well, you know what? I only had 30,000 likes on my page when I started this. So 4,000 likes a month that are genuine
Awesome.
are really, I mean, even if only half of them are genuine and going to be interacting with my page at all.
Well, the
You
brilliant thing the cool thing is now that, as we start to get into the actual campaigns and we start to structure them in a fashion that's like, okay, now we have all these likes.
Yeah.
What's the
Of
next
new
what's
people.
what's the next thing that we can build into that? When we've talked a lot about this, but in more depth, you can start leveraging that engaged audience and building lookalike audiences and even just using the people that are engaging and putting a smaller ad budget to your conversions, right?
Right.
So we'll talk more about what that looks like. So fun.
Getting ahead of ourselves, right?
I know.
Later in the
Always.
presentation.
It's very exciting.
Always.
It always gets
See,
very
that's why I let
exciting. Yeah.
Tyler present this because he's
Yeah.
like,
He stays on point.
I'm sure he's just rolling his eyes right now, like, let's go, come on, we got stuff to get to
I know.
here.
Move along.
So positioning your brand, authentic, genuine, vulnerable, behind the scenes strategy. Your organic strategy shows your creation of these ideas, creation of the material needs, to be more forefront. The ability to show your creative process and commitment to your customers will continue to pay dividends for you. Promotion of member-created content. One of the best ways to encourage empathy and relatability is to promote your members' content, which you're talking about in your Kickstarter campaign.
I am.
Right? Whether good or bad, highlights what your users have created and share the success stories. Is much more impactful and guided way. So they will feel recognized, appreciated, and if, again, going back to that pyramid, they'll get to that point of self-transformation throughout that process. So authority. Continue in the same vein as empathy. There are some unique insights into the authority piece. Establish your product as hard to get. Establishing your product, I can't read, as hard to get. Limited releases to members and additional benefits will continue to create that success. That unique piece, the takeaway piece, it will, it'll create that novelty of FOMO, fear of missing out.
People like exclusives.
They do. So the path, the overall, we see the following ideas and concepts to be potential avenues for you to shout your new marketing message of escape into expression and acceptance with any age coloring books. Let's dive in. Promoting your books as an initial lead-in. We talked about that. Ty, can you hear me okay? I know we built some, we've been working with our graphic design team to put together some value ladder information, but he's here, yeah. Well, Ty, what I want to make sure we lay this out as well. I know we've got this right now. Let's see if we have it. Oh, there we go. We'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the path, promote your one-off digital purchases, build in value from a membership value perspective, make it easier to understand the benefits. Tyler and I went through your Patreon account. We need to simplify the language there.
Okay.
You're creative and elaborate a lot.
Well, that's because I get a million questions a day, and I'm trying to cover all the bases to decrease the amount of emails that I get, and I still get the emails. Well, I'm confused. I still don't get it, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
We want to talk to as we optimize your membership, as we optimize your funnel. We'll just figure out how to more clearly articulate that. And it might take as many words, right? It might take the same amount of words, but maybe there's a way that we can position that a little differently.
No, I'm aware. I have way too many words. I work on that, but there's only so much I can do.
Yeah, no, we get it. But that's, again, that goes back to your capacity to generate revenue is right there.
Right.
It's right there. Right.
Yeah.
It's not in everything else. It's this. Right.
Yeah,
so
we can help. True.
We can help formulate this to get them to this. And I'm not saying you're not good at those things, but your capacity to increase your revenue is right there. It's the creative, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk more in depth about this. But giveaways, contests, spotlights for your tribe created artwork, behind the scene understandings to show your perfection and craft, and stories around the art. Did you end up doing a time lapse on this new book? Did you get any video assets as you built?
No, I was too busy to do any of that.
I know. One of these days we'll get into your mind where it's like, I'm coloring, push a button, let's go.
Well, you
It used to
the one
she
she just did,
that way.
The one that she just did, which was for the Color in Heaven magazine. You did what, 15 images in like a week? And it was like, here's one computer with Lifetime movies and Netflix, and here's the other one with a tablet and got a blanket feet up there, just all day.
Yep.
All day.
All day, every day.
That's awesome.
Until it was dark outside and
well,
going to bed.
I was going to say it would have been fun to capture some of that because that builds an added level of authenticity.
Right.
Because then they're like, well, I'm going to do what she did. I'm going to turn on Netflix Lifetime movies.
Yep.
Sit here with a blanket on my leg and color.
Yeah.
Exactly. And come join me in the process, and it might be fun to do something like that where you have Facebook has these watch parties.
Yeah.
Where you have a watch party. And you're doing your creative inside of that watch party while they're actually just sitting and watching.
I know. I was wondering if there was a way that we could do if there was like a level on like Patreon where we could do like group Skypes where we would color with the people or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say it was only 25 people.
Right? Do a Zoom meeting.
Right. And I know that there's so many that you could include, but let's just say for an hour.
So fun.
Digitally, you hey, we're gonna
My
color
daughter would
together.
jump on.
I'm
She'd
gonna
love it.
draw and you guys are gonna color and we're gonna talk and chat and make some tea
Just-
and
yeah, right. It's
you know
like
what I'm
it's like a
saying?
coffee shop.
yeah, and so
right?
it would be like an hour
It's
a
a
month,
wicked cool
and
idea.
that could be like a Patreon
Part of
tier.
your VIP.
I think that would be cool.
That would
Your,
be way
your,
cool.
your 1 hour a month of Kenyan time.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a digital convention, basically.
Yeah, it
I'll send
is.
y'all lanyards and little tickets and stuff.
Debbie, make sure you're marking that down, please.
Oh, absolutely. And I think
know we're recording this,
deep
but
time with Hannah.
yep. Whatever you said.
Yeah, Skype.
It's still hard to hear.
I know.
But you know, it's not just me. It would be, you know, me and 25
Yeah.
other people,
Yeah, that's right.
and other people coloring, and they could, you know, ask each other, hey, what pencil? Oh, I got these new pencils. And I mean, I could probably guide it somehow in the beginning to say, okay, you know, what new books did you have? What new materials did you get?
That's right,
You know,
that's right.
what's going on this week? You know, blah, blah,
That
blah.
would be a wicked.
And then, yeah, then we can just kind of color, and it's just like how women get together sometimes and they have,
It's like book clubs.
yeah, exactly, like
Yeah.
book clubs
Yeah.
or whatever. But
That's
we
a
just
cool
do it
idea.
on Skype.
That's a really cool
Push
idea.
them into the subscription model better that way.
That's
Yeah.
what I was saying. If we did like a higher check, you can only get so many people on one
Yeah.
Skype. I could do multiple
Skypes.
Skypes
Yeah.
per month.
Yeah.
So I could do 25 at a time to keep it
And you
intimate.
know, you can even do it, quite frankly, inside of a VIP. You could do it on a Facebook Live. Well, no, Zoom would be more fun because then you can talk back and forth to those people.
Well, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
There's
That's
the
what I'm
intimacy.
saying. Like there's you
Yeah.
know, where we can talk back and forth, and they can show me what they're working on, and they can even hold it up and go, "What's this? Is this part of her arm?" Or you know, because I get those types of like it's an open dialogue, like
Yeah.
we're sitting in the same room together.
That's
You
so
know.
cool. That's a really cool idea. I really like that. But that's not going to be your
I'm doing it right now.
$4.99 membership.
No. No, I have quite a few people. I mean, I have
I'm just harassing you.
Like,
Come on now.
I have over 300 people on that page right now,
Mhm.
and 20 of them are paying me $20 a month,
That's
and
great.
then I've got another 50 of them paying me $9.99 a month, and then the rest of the bulk are in that $4.99 category, and then there's only a little over 100 in that $1.99 because I cut it off.
Yeah.
You know, I said if you're trying to transfer over from the previous membership and you need this spot, email me. But
Yeah.
it's cut off to everybody else. It's sold out, so I don't have
So
new
what
people
was
trying
your-
to sneak in.
What was your monthly residuals before the change? You were at what?
It was about 800 a month.
So you've
So I
done by about
doubled.
1,000. Cool.
So I doubled. So
That's great.
800 to 1,600.
Oh, we're just getting started. So basically what we did is we took these ideas of the path and we built them into a brainstorm diagram. And there's obviously other elements of the path that we can do the same thing. We just wanted to give you some insights in terms of, you know, some of those tiers, some of those chapters in the book we talked about in terms of content. So you could play each one of these out as an element of content. Member benefits, that could be a whole piece in terms of what you're doing, freebies, and anyway, these are all part of the value ladder that we'll dive into here in just a second. But fun stuff.
What's that? What does she want?
Correct, tell her she's for the bus.
Oh. Today's Wednesday. She should assume she always rides the bus. She always does that. Are you coming to pick me up? No, it's Wednesday. Ride the bus.
It's Wednesday. Get out of here. Or they go
Hillcrest. So she's got an early release day on Wednesday, and that's the only time she has to ride the
If
bus.
I wasn't doing something, I would make it over. It's like usually I pick up her sister up at 3:30 and then I get pick her up 20 minutes later.
But on early release day, they're an hour apart in release.
Oh.
So I'm like, I'm not gonna go pick you up and then have to sit
That's
around
grocery
for an
shopping day.
hour.
I pick her up and then we're shopping
Yeah.
and we're doing sister.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense. That makes sense. So the fighters, organic content and the value artwork, how it prevents anxiety, depression, etc. Testimonials and stories of how the artwork has helped your tribe in this area, and that's going to be the fun part of what you're doing with your Kickstarter campaign. It might even be interesting inside of that Kickstarter campaign to not only have the piece that was colored, but have some sort of couple paragraphs of the story to explain why it was colored the way that it was. Not sure how you fit it. Maybe it's like a front to back or something. But anyway. Referral network interviews with professionals, packets and ebooks on how to implement into your life, practice, etc. And build a referral network and membership for doctors, practitioners for youth-based groups. We talked about that kind of briefly, but that's a huge market. And as a matter of fact, I need to connect you with Dr. Lynn Kenny out of Arizona. She has a huge base of school teachers that follow her work. She's a good friend of mine, and she's in the world of psychology, a child psychologist. So I think, and she has a program for teachers specifically, where they bring in different types of room decor to help with the learning process, the cognitive learning process. So she's a good friend, and I need to connect with her so you guys can swap information and see how you collab on some projects. She loves the idea of affiliate collaborations, and she knows lots of people in the world of psychology. So she's
I
awesome.
had somebody email me like a couple weeks ago asking if I had an affiliate program. They wanted to like sell my products on their site, and I was like, I'm not set up for that right now.
We will be. It's part of the game. Because I think that'll become a huge part of your revenue as well. I mean, it's just Amazon or other people that know you. You're building your channel and giving people the opportunity to expose you even more.
Yeah,
They're doing it already.
anyway. Yeah, they're doing it anyway.
You might as well give them a kickback for that. So we'll talk about that in terms of what that looks like for website design that we'll be discussing towards the end. So the value ladder: freebie, lead magnet, tripwire, book purchase, book bundle, upsell opportunity, additional books in the bundle. We talked about a lot of different things, and we've got lots of pictures in this section. Ty, have we uploaded all of those pictures from the drawings that we did into their folder?
I've seen them all. I don't know if you can hear me, but I've seen the pictures in their folder. Do you want me to send you some?
You have all those in there? Okay.
I think so. From the whiteboards and stuff?
Yes, we do. Okay.
Yep, they're in there.
Hannah's tea party. I like it.
Hannah's tea party. Come to Hannah's tea party. You know Deb's going to be there.
I know,
With
right?
her peppermint, organic peppermint tea.
We could dress up.
Absolutely. Every month a theme.
That'd be so fun.
I love it.
Theme would be fun.
So, yeah, that's actually fun. Okay, so now let's go into the transformation section. So as we conclude our analysis, briefing recommendation is the transformation phase where the rubber hits the road. You know, we consider ourselves partners with every client we work with. I think we've had a great working relationship thus far. And we want to give some recommendations in terms of moving forward to make sure that we are not only helping facilitate this whole process, the discovery, the breakthrough segments of phase 1 and 2, but the transformation really was where the revenue begins. This is the most exciting part for us, and I'm sure for you. It's like, okay, we extrapolate a lot of information.
Right.
We've come to a lot of conclusions. Now, how do we execute most effectively, right?
Yeah, it's like when I get to go finish a book. It's like when I work on a book, I first start with an outline. It's just a brainstorm of everything that makes me think of this certain theme. And I just write it all out. And then I kind of go back to each individual thing, and then I take a prompt, and then I, sketch the page out, and I scan it in, and I do the thing, and then I tape it up on my wall. Boom, one goes up there, and then I work on the next, and boom, the next one goes up there, and the next one, and then when they're all taped up on the walls and everything's completely done, I take them all off, and I take all the tape out, and then I go into the kitchen, and I clear off the entire granite countertop, and they all get lined up, and then they get rearranged, which order they're going to go in, and all this other stuff, and then it's like, there's so much work to look into it, and it's like, when I finally hit that publish button, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, because it's payday now.
It's payday. All I hear is, make it rain, baby.
Yeah, it's payday.
So here's some of the recommendations that we want to just give you. We didn't talk in a ton of detail in terms of call to action, because obviously that's the purpose of this meeting. Let's identify the call to action, figure out what key critical components you want to move forward with, and let's move forward. So step 1, Kickstarter rollout, determine the best way to be successful initial Kickstarter rollout, build appropriate messaging, marketing strategy for the outreach to your networks, videos, graphics, levels, etc. And then hit necessary campaign goals, provide consultative guidance. And like we mentioned, we've done 2 Kickstarter campaigns. One got funded, the other one didn't. The other one didn't because it wasn't unique. It was a hammock tent.
I've seen a couple of them.
It's a cool concept. It's just there's a lot of people selling them already.
Right.
So it wasn't something that it wasn't unique, and they didn't have any sort of a track. So you already have that. Utilize the success of this. Utilize the success of this in the field for progress and growth in the following steps. Define the final marketing message, what imagery, graphic, hashtags, overall visual ideas. Work with your new one line. We need to, obviously, what needs to be produced, what assets you have, what you don't have currently. Create an actionable content strategy, content calendar for the delivery of these messages. And then build out offers and redemption touch points, how to utilize already established lead services with new messaging. Maybe change and optimize some of the funnels that you currently have, or rebuild some of the content outside of Wix or Weebly, or was it Weebly or Wix?
I use Weebly, and yeah. I think Tyler was talking about using WordPress.
Open source, yeah. Yeah, I mean, WordPress, from what we can tell, and Tyler has years of experience, but my experience with WordPress to date is that it's just easier to navigate, make changes on your own without having to pay a developer lots of money to try to do anything unique and customize a lot of things. And because the open source, it's a lot easier to navigate through. So that's number two. Number three, redesign and rebrand your online presence. Redesign funnel strategy, appropriate value ladder, checkout systems, referral to Patreon. Determine marketing messages, emails. Use screen directions and possibly text messaging to increase the conversion rate and engagement. We can further personalize those messages through some text messaging concepts that can create just an additional touch point.
Did I tell you they put me in Facebook jail for sending out too many messages?
Did they?
Yeah. How do you not get into Facebook jail when you're sending so many messages?
Build your ManyChat sequence, because then that third party app, it doesn't, the notification is a lot different. Okay. So that's how.
I don't think you told him about the Patreon interview thing that you did too.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, she said.
Oh,
did
yeah,
you
so
end up
that's
doing that interview?
I sent the information in and I haven't heard back, so I'm just waiting to hear back.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. They had some big, huge snafu the very first couple days that I launched my Patreon account. They were having a problem processing payments. They had to shut the site down multiple times.
You broke it, yeah.
I did break it, and all my fans were like, "Yes, we broke the internet." You know, trying to get into Hannah's Patreon, we broke the internet. I was like, "You guys really did."
And then they're like, "What did you just do to us?"
I know.
Like, we've never had that kind of influx before.
I know. I'm like, this is crazy.
That's awesome. So, a recommendation to build out a new WordPress portal, website and portal that can be self-updated, managed, that features a cleaner marketing message, homepage flow, story, testimonials, case studies, shopping sections, so users can purchase directly through that website. And you don't have 5 different credit card processing systems.
You're going to have 2. You're always going to have PayPal and you're going to have Stripe. That's all. You're going to always have 2. You've got to have PayPal because those international customers, they don't like putting their credit card information into the computer. They want to use PayPal. They want that protection.
Well, we can even transition to Braintree through PayPal, so all of it's through PayPal. But we'll I mean, PayPal is obviously a giant. So.
Right.
Gather client details, success through the website with actionable account information, remarketing setup, and actionable client details. We talked a little bit about that too. So, build an initial traffic and engagement corporate strategy. Determine what and this is kind of the Facebook ad product, right? Determine the cost per click, cost per engagement, cost per conversion. Elevate the organic and paid reach on Facebook and Instagram, measure and determine the relevance score of each marketing message that is served to each target demo. Increase social proof with testimonies and actionable content that resembles the bucket in which you're marketing to. The fun thing about starting to market, especially in terms of the buckets, is you can see the response. You can see, is this message really resonating based on the response that you have product, based on the people's response that's trafficked and tracked and reported through like that. So if you look at the organic stuff, it only gives you like this much information.
Right.
Yeah, product is like, you pick and choose. You got millions of things to pick from, whichever, whatever you want to know, you can do.
Yeah.
So increasing social proof, increasing video view, brand awareness type ads across your locations to achieve higher video watch, reach, and metrics. Building your ManyChat sequence, which is your instant chatbot technology, paired with text messaging systems for new messaging strategy, and then your remarketing, retargeting touch points. So that your products are
I did like a Valentine's Day freebie coloring page, and I set up a small funnel for it, and then I posted it, and of course those always do well because immediately everybody's like, "Yay, free stuff!" And so I boosted it, and then when I went in and looked at the data, I was really irritated because while it was getting all kinds of engagement, for some reason, the amount of actual link clicks that it was getting was like really, really low. And I was like, are they just lying to me? Or because I'm getting the traffic, you know, so I'm like, I don't understand how I can have 500 engagements and 14 link clicks. That doesn't make any sense. The only way they can get it is by clicking on the link. So
well, I'll tell you how, right? There's 12 to 17 marketing objectives depending on the month. And depending on the marketing objective you select, Facebook identifies the placement of that marketing objective in front of the right people that are going to take the proper action. So if you're running a brand awareness campaign, Facebook's not optimizing for link clicks.
Right.
So they're just going to say, we're going to throw something out there. If they click links, great. But really, all we want to do is we want this to get in front of people that are most likely to take action A.
Right.
So the number percentage was based off of a different marketing metric than which.
So if you would have,
I'm looking for link clicks. It's going, you only got.
But it didn't give me the option to optimize for link clicks.
It does.
It said you get two options. One is to have people message you, and the other one is to have people engage with your post through a like or a comment. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to pick that one because it's not giving me the option to say, I want people to click on my website, Facebook. You know?
Yeah, that's where the back end portion of creating the assets instead of just boosting posts.
Right.
That's where you build those authentically to the platform instead
I
of
just
just
turned the stupid thing off. I was like, I'm done.
Well, I'll tell you. Here's the point that I want to get across here is we have a client right now that's spending about $50,000 a month in pay-per-click ads. They're dropping about $2,000 a month in Facebook advertising. Because we optimized for link clicks, they had 27,000 link clicks on a $50,000 ad budget. We had 25,000 link clicks on a $2,000 ad budget.
Right.
Like
you're doing something a lot better than
4 cents per click.
Right.
And we're like, you got to give us more budget so we can give you 40 to 50,000 link clicks. Right. No, we don't know if Facebook works. I'm like,
the data's right here. This is what I like
even
about all
you
this
don't know.
measurable data. Yeah.
But that's the difference between a brand awareness campaign, because when we run that same brand awareness campaign, we get video views because we optimize for video views, but we don't get link clicks.
Right.
But if we take that same exact ad set, put it in a link click website traffic campaign and say, this is what we want to optimize, and Facebook delivers it to those people that are most likely to click on that link to take them to an external source.
Right.
What we ought to consider as we move forward, we ought to consider doing some what they call lead ads on Facebook, and then optimize your email strategy, because lead ads basically you click a button. I don't know if you've seen this, and it auto-populates your name and email address. It's native to the Facebook platform, so it doesn't take you to a third-party resource.
Right.
But then if we have the back-end email drip campaign sequence and the funnel built into that part, we can test it, right? We can test traffic conversion versus this lead ad conversion to see what works. It might work even better because it's a one-click submit versus a fill out a new form submit.
Right. Yeah. No, people like that. I've seen the lead ads. Those are new, aren't they?
They've been around for
last year.
No, they've been around for a while. People just haven't optimized them appropriately because they're afraid to build it. Because really, on the lead ads, you can build the actual ad product as if it looks like a landing page. So it's like a full view experience. And most people prefer, just from a tracking perspective, most people prefer like a ClickFunnels or a WordPress because then the tracking is more precise. And sometimes it's hard to get back to those leads once they've actually been delivered. Right?
Before I forget, I wanted to ask yours and Tyler's opinion. What do you guys think about Shopify? Isn't that Facebook's shopping platform?
Shopify has some really good integrations in with Facebook ad product in terms of what they call a abandoned cart ads, remarketing, retargeting for abandoned cart. Ty, what's your take on Shopify?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. So Hannah, the biggest drawback of Shopify, the reason I utilize WooCommerce and WordPress over Shopify is because you can code natively in WordPress and WooCommerce to set up your information appropriately, and your website actually becomes proprietary to you. The problem with Shopify is you have to create a monthly account similar to Wix, similar to Squarespace, and if you cancel that account, you lose all of that proprietary information.
So if you don't keep it current, you lose it.
I just wonder, if Shopify was kind of like Amazon's self-publishing service, where they organically tend to promote it more than they would other websites because they get a cut.
No, it's a WYSIWYG builder.
Say that
WordPress
again,
and WooCommerce.
speak a little louder if you can.
Yeah. That's no, it's can you guys still hear me? Is that okay?
Yep. Kind of.
Maybe. Yeah, so no, it's just a self builder. It's for people that don't know how to code. There's no SEO advantages.
Okay.
There's no publishing advantages. All of that integrations can be built into WordPress just as easily as a self builder.
Doesn't Facebook own Shopify though?
I'm not 100% certain. The point of Shopify is to be able to create e-commerce solutions for people that don't know how to custom code.
See, and I thought it was something that you could add, basically, that Facebook is trying to get. It's almost like their eBay site. You integrate your ad, you send them directly to Shopify. They also get a cut there. If you're advertising to send them to an e-commerce site that's owned by them, that they're taking another 3% of or whatever. That was my understanding of it. I could be wrong. If they don't, then they should, because that sounds like a genius plan to me. I don't know.
There are some.
You can have all of those same integrations with WordPress and WooCommerce as you can with Shopify, because there's also BigCommerce. There's a lot of other comparables.
Setting up like one, like a couple PDF books and running an ad to it to see if.
It sounds like Tyler just doesn't think there's much of a difference other than, he can keep all his data later if he doesn't do the WordPress.
Yeah, I'd have to.
It's not proprietary to you. So if you self-build a website in Shopify and then you cancel your subscription, then you're back to square one comparative to having a custom website.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that.
We'll get back to that. So success in our minds, for the plan to be successful, we see success looking like a proven increase in organic and paid reach of your social media content that includes tracking video views, reach, organic demographic reports, seeing month-over-month increases, as well as utilizing the successful brand awareness campaigns to see actionable clicks, impressions, stabilize the funnel, or into a stable funnel approach month-over-month, exposing the beautiful concepts to the masses. And I mean, obviously, both of those end up being relevant, right? The more we can prove increase in this, the more exposure we gain, the more we position the ad campaigns appropriately to drive the traffic where it needs to go into the funnel, the more that the funnel is stable and that you're getting conversions and it's optimized. It's just a matter of now turning on the fire hose.
Since I've been running that ad on Facebook since January 9th, so it's only been, a month and a half or something like that, I've seen a pretty consistent, considerable increase on the Amazon paperback sales.
Oh, cool. Great.
So
it's your Facebook ad product is, and maybe some of that is because the brand awareness campaign, they're just starting to search you more through Google product, which is taking them to Amazon for sales. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And what you'll notice as we continue to create more brand exposure, with an optimized funnel, you'll be able to generate the revenue through there, but you'll still see an increase in Amazon sales.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be collateral in Amazon sales. I mean, people
The
run
more bread awareness there is.
entire conventions and everything, and do events completely for free just to get exposure for their book
That's
sales.
exactly
That
right.
is
Exactly
the only reason they do those things is just to sell books.
Yeah.
Hannah, do you have a percentage, or are you talking like a 10% increase or like a 2% increase?
I would say it went from like 25 books a day to like 40 books a day.
Oh, wow.
So,
Woohoo! That's awesome!
yeah.
That's almost a 50% increase in sales.
Yeah, and it's been really consistent, I've noticed too.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
This
I'm
is
happy
so
about
fun.
that then.
This is just so fun.
Yeah.
We're not even started.
You
We
have
haven't
a
even
book
started.
launch right there too.
Well, I did, but it kind of petered out or whatever. And generally speaking, I mean, I've been with Amazon for 3 years. It goes like this, and then it goes like this.
But you're stabilizing.
And it
that
went
through
like
continuing.
this, and it went like this, and then it went like this.
So you're stabilizing that because of your
something
Facebook
I'm
ad product.
doing is making a difference in the consistency.
There's
of
always still
sales.
that spike, but the low wasn't as low and it stayed a lot
There's
more.
always
Yeah,
a dip there. It goes up like this and then it dips down and then it stays at this little dippy part, you know.
Little
And
dippy
so
part.
the
This
dippy part
dippy
is
part,
is
yeah.
a lot
You need
higher.
that dippy part, very consistent.
Yes.
Let's just go like this and then like this and then like this, right?
Are you saying
Now
dippy
you're throwing me
or
down.
Debbie part?
Oh man.
Are you saying Dippy or Debbie? I can't tell.
We're bobbing and weaving, and I didn't realize I had mud all over my face. Whatever. 'Tis the season, right?
Yep.
So how we achieve digital success by bringing the entirety of the funnel together, got all of our pieces of the brand story, communicated effectively through brand awareness, making those connections through our 4 E's or the creating connection portion, social proof, acquisition, and retention. And you know what's beautiful about this is like, we talked about this before, as we further amplified these 2 critical components, it just eliminates the friction from the brand awareness to the purchase.
Right.
And I think you've started creating even more content through social that's further giving people your target demo what they need. So that's where you're starting to see that increase in acquisition of your books through
Yes.
Amazon.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So it's fun. It's fun to see this actually do work. So here we go. Let's talk some numbers here. So we envision the following bundle prices to help you achieve call to action, digital plan moving forward, Kickstarter consultation, $2,500 one time, website funnel build, optimization, $4,500 one time, and then this is what I recommended. This traffic and engagement, and I would even say optimizing for conversions at $1,500. That's typically a $2,000 to $2,500 to $3,000 package. And then here's your ad spend. You'll see, you know, if you take your $400 ad spend, you put some more synergy behind it to drive them into these elements of the funnel. That's where we turn it into a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
your ad
not
spend.
doing any of that right. There's like, it's like one of those mazes where you keep like hitting a little
Yeah,
wall
yeah.
and it's not like the flow.
It's okay. And again, this is where you make your money, not in this, right? That's why you have us to help facilitate this Kickstarter campaign. I think almost, you know, tell me timeline on the website build. We're what about?
Yeah, we're looking at 60 to 90 days probably by the time we get everything set up. And I wanted to build out some new funnel flows, either in ClickFunnels or, you know, proprietary just on the website.
In the interim. So while we're building, what we talked about is while we're building the website, let's build some more funnels and optimize those funnels inside ClickFunnels as it is, so that we're not waiting 6 to 8 weeks. Let's turn the ad traffic on. Yeah, let's pay for all this. Let's pay for all this in the next month.
Right.
And then let's get ready to launch a big Kickstarter campaign based on your engaged audiences. Launch that baby, raise whatever you want to set your goal at, 25K or 100K or whatever it looks like, because then it can facilitate paying for all this. You can get all the information out to them and just keep it simple. I mean, like we talked about, and this is just the pricing. We had discussed before building a relationship, doing a rev share concept. We wanted to throw this out and just say, this is what our pricing would be if we didn't do any sort of rev share. Now, I'm more interested in doing something rev share, but we have to do what's fair for you, what's fair for us, right?
Right.
So totally open to that conversation, what that looks like for you guys. I know you've negotiated with your, what did you call it, guy? It does everything else besides the coloring books?
Agent?
Agent. No, is that what they call it?
Licensing agent?
Your licensing agent, yeah. So obviously you've negotiated with them. We'd love to talk about that, because I feel like if we have a vested interest besides just a paycheck, then it gives us more incentive to make it. Not that we're ever going to underperform what you're paying us,
Right.
but if there's a way we can build this together, we'd love to. You know, we'd love to look at that and see what that looks like for you and looks like for us, and come together something works. So.
Well, I don't want to speak out of turn. It's your business. But what was interesting is I see these numbers, and the numbers that I had heard originally with RevShare, they aren't even in the same ballpark. Based on your conversation that we've had, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar business. If you're willing to help me do it for this price, I'd be insane to give you that amount of RevShare.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's like giving up your market share in your own business.
Yeah.
It seems excessively one-sided. It's either give it all up now which will hurt for
Sure.
us in the short term, but
Sure.
it's doable.
Sure.
Or give away, all of your, interest
Well,
in your own company for the future.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. I mean, it would have to, it's not just on all revenue. I mean, it's
Sure.
on
It's
new
on increased
revenue.
new revenue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on increased new
Yeah.
revenue.
But-
Which, like I said, with my licensing agent, they get 50% because I literally upload the files to them
You don't
and
do
they
anything
go
with that.
they go all over
That's
the
right.
world. They're going to be in Vegas in May with posters of my stuff.
The only
and talking
input
to
she needs
people
is, do I want to sign this contract or not? Am I
Which-
interested in this product?
Which even that's a little iffy. They're pretty much like, we don't really need your permission. You
We're gonna
pretty much
do it
sign
anyway.
We're going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
But they're out there doing all the work and spending millions of dollars
Right.
going to all these. I
Right.
mean, they are
Right.
everywhere, all over the world, Europe and
Understood.
Atlanta and all this other stuff, spending lots and lots of money. And so that's where they get the 50% because
Yeah.
they are going to be
They're putting in a lot of
putting
time,
a
effort,
lot
and
of time
energy
and
to
energy
make
and
that happen. Sure.
other contracts that I have for licensing things, even that same kind of model, generally 10 to 15% that I get, when if they're putting in lots and lots of money and product, because
It's usually somebody else's product.
that's what I'm saying.
It's very
Physical
different when it's
product,
your
they've got a
own.
lot more overhead. There's
Right.
all kinds of things going on. I mean, I look at these numbers and I think I can handle the Kickstarter myself. I told Miles the same thing with the video. I'm like, I can get it together. I mean, it's probably not going to be a $200,000 campaign, but
Sure.
I just watched one of my friends, Meredith Tillman. Her campaign ended at over close to $19,000. She had the $1,800 goal. She put together a video. She
Great.
overvoiced it. She put a few of her cats in it, and her entry level was $20.
Yeah.
Mine's going to be like 40.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel pretty confident that I can handle the Kickstarter. Now, whether or not I can get this launched before March 1st, which was my initial goal, or not, is kind of what's hanging in the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't sure how that fit into what exactly it is that we're doing. If
And do we want to start it before any of the background stuff is done? Is that a wise decision?
right, or
You know?
should we wait until
Well,
April?
You're doing. I mean, the Kickstarter almost acts mutually exclusive, right?
Right, it's separate.
It really does.
It is, and
It's not like, well, now we have this audience in part of this process, we're going to drive them into something else.
right.
Because it operates inside of that Kickstarter campaign. What you see
Right.
is what you get.
Right.
inside
I mean, they'll
Kickstarter.
And
search
it's
me.
existing
They'll
fans.
find me
and
on
things.
Amazon. But the good news is that Patreon is pretty well set up. Even though, like you said, it could be a little more concise and organized or
Sure.
whatever. But it is set up. It's a solid platform. There's a lot of social proof behind it. It's public that I have $1,600 on there and 300 supporters. Amazon's another solid social proof. They search me. I come up on Amazon. They can find me. They can spend money. So I don't feel like it. I think it would be okay. And that's why I was thinking. I was like, I can get it together and get it up
Sure.
on
Sure.
March 1st and not have. The point is to try to raise money so that we can continue
Yeah, right.
working together.
Well, and we do need a scalable budget for you as well. I'm the first one to be critical of it's either here or here, and both can be a little bit cumbersome.
And that's
But
right.
I also see here's where we are now. But if we're talking on the same page, we're going to be here in 6
That's right.
months. As my income goes up, I
You're
expect to pay you more.
Sure.
And so and that makes sense to me. That's
Which
where we
is
kind of
why-
go, well,
Which is why a percentage-based model works so well.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, that's
percentages always.
Yeah,
it's just hard to measure.
That's right.
It is.
It is, and that's where we just need to be extremely clear in what that looks like, because you're going to continue to put effort in on your behalf, and we're going to continue to put effort in on your behalf as well.
Right.
But then, how do you differentiate the revenue stream and where it comes from?
Well, you
So that's where we
to-
just have to be, and honestly, to be fully transparent, that's one of the reasons why we like to just throw a number. We recognize the value of what you're bringing to the table, and we know how to scale this, or help you scale in terms of the ad product. Normally what we'd say is, well, this is the base ad product, but then it's a percentage of increased ad revenue would be the additional payment that comes to us, right? Instead of a rev share concept. But I'm open, right? We want to do what's best for you, because we recognize that if we can build a strong relationship like we have and nurture that relationship appropriately, then it makes sense for all of us to win together.
Right, but what's best for me is also what's to do best for you, because that
Exactly.
means you're gonna work better and harder when
That's
you have
exactly
a
right.
percentage.
And
That's
you're
right.
going
that's
after.
always been the
Yeah.
part. It's like ideally, and maybe I'm not quite entirely understanding maybe your guys' part. The more of the behind the scenes web part of the development of it, all day Facebook advertising and taking all that stuff off her plate is a great thing.
Mhm.
I mean, right now she's working like I was, and I'm going, you're not present, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
she's in her office at 6:30 in the morning, and she's out at 9 o'clock at night, and it's like, well, that's not sustainable. And I get it.
Right.
The whole point is for her. I stopped working full time, so we had more time together, and now it's just reversed. Now it's just reversed. Okay,
Now
great.
it's like, you go
I'm
do everything,
paying
I'm
house
working.
and you're always
Well,
done.
the only reason I'm doing that is because we know that this is the means to an end. We
Correct.
have a plan
Correct.
to, because you're right, that's not my ideal, timeline for work would not be just trading spaces and me working, 16 hours a day now. That doesn't make any sense. But to be fair, I had a lot of things going on and I had a deadline and it just
Totally understood.
But,
Well, and it goes back to, in my mind, the best way that we can help you is help optimize the back end so you can stay in your creative space. Give us, just like what you do with Amazon or with your licensing agent, like, here's something new.
Upload
You go do what you do with it.
Yeah.
Here's an ad budget that we can allocate to this. And as we see it scaling, if we're getting a 10 times return on investment, every $100 you're spending, you get 1,000. Well, let's just up the budget to 15 grand, and then let's make 50 grand off it, or 100. You know what I mean? So we want to work. We will work closely in terms of the back end with you and figure out the best way to optimize. Is there going to be learning curve? Sure, of course. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
And what does it look like in the end? I don't know, nor am I saying this is what we want, right?
So,
All I'm saying is here's the basics of
Right.
what we see from a time energy perspective that it's going to take to put into to do it the right way. And we want to make a little bit of money.
Right.
You're going to beat me up on price. I know that, right? So we want to make a little bit of money in this process. We want to work fairly with you so that it works for everybody.
Right.
I mean, end game is this: you're always going to make more money than we do, because we are just the people that are facilitating the creative that you're doing, and you should be paid more than what we're ever paid because you are the creative genius.
Well, and
We're
I
just
think
attacking.
part of our hesitation always is in our experience, and I'm not trying to categorize you into the same group, but there's always been a lot of profit takers. I mean,
Sure.
it's like, I want to pay you 10, 20% of anything that I make gladly through the proof.
That's exactly right.
And I'm happy to do it in those circumstances. But it's hard when somebody goes, hey, I'm gonna walk into this. We've shown you nothing. But that is characteristically
Totally
been
understand.
how
I totally
it's
understand.
always been. And I'm like,
Yeah, you have to.
people are
Yeah.
people.
People are
I'm
people.
gonna always help everybody
Right.
I can, but I never expect it in return.
Right. And business
People
is
aren't that
business
way.
and people have businesses to run and
Sure.
I try not to take it personally, but it's difficult not to when it's something that's so personal to you as a business. You're like,
Understood.
this is great, but is this the 1,500 and the 1,500? Are you saying as the ad spend goes up, the other number goes up with it?
We could position that appropriately. Normally what we'll do is we do a certain dollar ad spend where it stays at that fee. And then if you go above and beyond that
Right,
ad spend,
that's
that's where we take a
threshold when you
percentage
start.
of the ad spend. Normal rate is about 10 to 15% of ad spend.
Right.
So it's like, it's not that plus, it's if you're over $15,000 in ad spend.
So
Right.
it's 1,600 and 2,500.
Right.
Or
Right.
Whatever, however that
that
looks
way.
like. So, and that might be the best way to scale in the beginning until we really see what that looks like. And then we just figure out, again, I'm a believer that if you take care of people and you do it right, that it always comes back to benefit you. I just got we were in the process of buying an organization last week. And we just found out this morning that they went behind our back and sold it to someone else without telling us, even though we had an offer on the table and everything. No transparency. And it's gonna come back to hurt that person simply because now we're gonna compete with them and we're gonna dominate it.
Right.
Well, and then you have all the insight on their own
That's
business,
how
too.
I look at things too. It's like as a publisher, I'm like, well, nice knowing you. You're gonna. I can't wait until the day you walk in and you see my stuff all over the place, and
That's right.
Hasbro toys or whatever it is, and you go, man, I remember when I screwed that girl over way back in the day when I thought she was nobody. It's like,
Yep. Yep.
fine. Keep the $50,000. You know what I'm saying? It's like keep your $50,000. I'll make so much more money.
So
ridiculous.
time frame on website and funnel build. If we did something like this, because realistically, that's probably really what you're looking at the most.
That is
It's essential.
definitely, see, I think what we talked about was, let's do the website and funnel build. I don't want to tie your guys' hands behind your back and say, let's optimize what I have and do it kind of halfway and then expect the results that we're talking about when I'm not giving you all the tools that you need to work with.
Totally
I
makes
want
There
to
needs
make
to be
you
enough protection
successful.
where if
Yeah.
something goes south, can I manage this website on my own? Can I
Yes.
make it?
Right.
Because she does do things with
She
her
knows how to
website
do it.
every day. Like
I know.
I'm changing this, and this is a new ad going on my website. Want to make sure that stays
Yeah,
stays
and
intact.
Which
Tyler
it'll
said that
actually
will.
be more user
User-friendly.
friendly with WordPress than it was.
Right,
with
and that's
Google.
okay. So, I mean, it makes it easier because I'm not completely computer illiterate or inept. It's like the
Right.
same thing with I was telling Miles, I'm like, I can do a video.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the best video ever, but for future projects, I will probably be using their services.
Sure.
But for this one, I thought I can probably get through this
Yeah.
one so we can get some funding, get the ball rolling, things like that. But what we talked about was, you know, we need to give this a fair shot, and I don't want to, you know, hinder your methods in any way.
Mhm.
I want you to do it the way that you would want to do it with your vision in play, going, okay, we do this, this, and this, and this. I don't want to go, well, let's, you know, carve this out and change this and reroute this and do all that, because then we just might not get where we want to go.
Well, the reality is, you work with us, right? It's not going to be a one-dimensional conversation.
No.
It's going to be, okay, here's where we're going, here's what we're
Right.
doing, here's mock-ups. And
Right.
Ty, you could probably even go through the website, what the actual process looks like, because he's got a whole standard process of we do mock-up design first with our
Right.
graphic designers. We show you what it looks like before we
Right.
even start the code. Make
Right.
sure the landing pages look right, and so on and so forth.
Right. And yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm just saying I don't want to be, you know, I want to be able to pay professionals to do what they do best.
Right.
And then I do what I do best. And of course, obviously my input is going to be needed, and you're going to need
Absolutely.
design files and things from me, and I'm going to be part of this process, but I just want to make sure that it's in line. So what we talked about was go with the website and funnel build for sure.
Okay.
And then give it a couple months on this traffic and engagement and
Okay.
see where we're at. You know, if we give it a couple months and we're not seeing, you know, the first month obviously is going to be kind of, you know, just still trying to get things together. Those numbers aren't going to be a good
Well,
average to look at
Not
necessarily.
not
You know?
necessarily, because you have so much momentum in terms of the traffic
Right.
conversion, you know, in terms of your audience. And because Debbie's been such a key critical component to this,
Mhm.
she can transfer the information to our ads team, and we can be up and running in no time,
Right,
right? And optimizing in no time.
right,
As long as, again, I think what you're saying is we need to make sure that the funnels are fixed before we start driving traffic to those funnels for revenue generation. So there
Right.
will be a gap. You're right.
yeah.
And Ryan, if I
No,
can
that's
jump
good.
in.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I would say, Hannah, I would almost encourage some sort of ad spend to your Kickstarter account too, just to fire it.
Yes.
So potentially consider that within your budget. And then from a web dev perspective, I can do a ClickFunnels flow and kind of because I'd like to sit down and custom design it so that you have some better assets. But I consider the ClickFunnels portion to be probably on a weekly flow of like, this is the ClickFunnels that we want for this week, and build down a couple so that we can start pushing ads to it while simultaneously in the back end working on the custom design and development of the website.
Yeah, that's
I
kinda
can do
like,
both.
if there's an opportunity like Valentine's Day came up. Perfect time for me to put out a freebie coloring page. Just pull one that's Valentine-y from any
Well,
one of my
okay.
books and kind of run, you know, a funnel, and that's what I've been doing. But like I said, it's so inconsistent. And my email marketing, I mean, I'm sending out one email a month if I'm lucky,
Mhm.
you know, on a newsletter.
Yep.
So
We can help with that
I'm just
process.
not taking full advantage of that. But I mean,
The
truthfully, again,
Kickstarter, though, you know, it doesn't really make sense because we've gone back and forth on this with the ad dollars towards the Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter, first one originally, is really just marketing to people that are already fans.
Yeah,
Yes.
but recognize on a Facebook page organically, you're 1 to 4% organic reach. And I know yours is a little bit higher
This
because you have
should be
engagement.
an email thing.
It could be both.
well,
She
but
should
you
be
can
announcing
run-
this Kickstarter through email.
Oh, I
because
will.
That's the
And
best way to
Facebook
reach
Live,
her.
yeah,
I
and
have
Facebook
I
Live,
have a
and
40 to 50% open rate on my
yeah,
email.
on your email
marketing
list. Right. So here's something to consider. running a Facebook ad set, not excluding your audience, but including your audience, and then you're exposing it to your people plus
Who
some.
might share and get a better
Yeah.
organic
I mean,
reach.
because you're going to get a better organic reach.
Right.
Because again, exposure 40 to 50% open rate with your email is good.
Right.
5 to 10% organic reach is good. But if you could bump it with a few $100s in ad spend to a traffic specific conversion
Right.
campaign where you're driving link clicks to a website where they're going to purchase, it potentially could just take your Kickstarter campaign and put it on fire. I mean, we've never done an organic Kickstarter campaign, and I don't know if there's very many that do an organic Kickstarter campaign that raise a significant amount of money. I know there's some that have invested $25,000 to $35,000 in organic Facebook, Instagram traffic to a Kickstarter campaign, and they raise $300,000 to $400,000 by leveraging Facebook ad product.
Right.
Just because it's the attention. I mean, it's here, and that's what we did. We spent $500 in ad product for one campaign, and we drove 2,000 or 3,000 people to it on a $500 ad budget.
Right.
So now that was the hammock that people didn't necessarily buy
Right.
because it wasn't a unique product.
Well,
It was a higher price. But
We did keep the Kickstart like tiers open-ended on that one, right? They're unlimited as far as the book. Like, because we talked about there are certain aspects of this book that are very personalized to
sure.
you're going to get your name in it, or you're going to be featuring your own artwork as part of the cover design, which
Those all
are
have to be
exclusive,
limited,
as
but there
well
is
as
gonna be one that's
autographed copies that she's doing. She doesn't want to autograph 100,000 copies. It's not feasible.
No.
Amen.
It has to be a certain number that's realistic.
Yeah, right.
So that
And then the
has-
rest are just, if you want the book, you can have it. And here's how much it is. And I guess that's where you
It's
meet
gonna
that.
be
Those
limited.
non-fans. Those are the tiers that ideally they'll be put into.
That's right.
Right.
That's
Yeah, I think I have it, like I said, I think when I look at Meredith Dillman's campaign for her, her $19,000 thing, I'm like, I think I can do it. I've run some soft kind of information polls. I set up some tiers.
Yeah.
I went to my VIP group and I said,
What would be
this is
good?
what I'm looking at. What tier are you? Where are you at? And then that gave me some immediate data. Oh, okay, I need to go back and change this.
That's
Change
great.
that. 'Cause I
That's
thought
great.
a lot of people were going to pick this, and most people are here.
Yeah.
And so what I need to do is, because of their budget, wanting to stay closer to the smaller end, is I need to increase the value on that end
Yeah.
to bump them from 1 to 2, because they're on the fence. One
Yeah.
or two, one or two, one or two. Well, 2 needs to have a lot more value in it without
great.
me
We want them to
offering.
pick two.
I think
Yeah.
I got it. I
Yeah.
think I have it. I think
The consolation
I think
is
I can-
everything's full, so you can only purchase the book because you missed
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You didn't get in fast.
Exactly.
It's the FOMO, right?
So if
Famous
we
here.
can get a FOMO campaign together in the very beginning and get that mad rush like when I shut down Patreon, we can do that. We can get Kickstarter's attention, and then they add you to the little
Yeah,
products they
yes.
love.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what Meredith Tillman got. That's why hers did so well, is because Kickstarter went, oh, hey, this is getting some
Well, you
attention.
typically get there anyways because your fans usually bum rush
They
any
do.
site.
12:01 Mountain Standard Time PM. They are on there to make
So
sure
to
that
get
they
200 to
this
500
spot.
engagements in the first couple hours
Isn't going to be a
definitely
struggle at
raises
all.
some eyebrows on almost any platform. that you
Yeah.
use.
Right.
Usually on.
So, but you're right. I think we should probably put. There
Well, I
needs to
think you
be
want
an
some.
ad
I think
spend.
you want some pre-content like we're coming. We're coming.
Yes.
We're
And
launching.
Well,
see, and
she's
that's
already
been,
been doing
but
some of
that's
that.
been the
That's
issue of a March 1st launch date is I need to have my video asset together and things so that I can give people at least, a 5-day heads up going, hey, this link is getting ready to go live. There are these tiers that are all limited. If you don't get in and get in soon enough, you can still get the
Yeah.
book, but you may not get.
Well, and that's how
this.
you leverage that. Yes, you put that specific video asset on your Kickstarter campaign or something that describes your Kickstarter campaign,
Right.
but you also have that as a Facebook ad product. And that, quite frankly, is what you optimize. So here's how you do it. I'll give you your consultation for. I really shouldn't do this.
Really shouldn't do it. You
Really
don't have to talk
shouldn't.
about
I
Kickstarter.
really shouldn't. No, so here's how you do it, right? So you do your live, right? Your Facebook Live event with the information. You optimize this for video view.
Right.
And this is where we'll come in from the ad product perspective. What we'll do on the back end is we'll optimize video view campaign, and then we'll build the new audience.
Now this is me. The live video is just a small short that leads to the video asset that's in the Kickstarter.
The 2 to 3
We're not-
minutes.
This is we are. Hey, my friends.
Right.
I'm putting together a Kickstarter. It's going to be wicked cool.
Right.
You need to know about it. It's opening March 1st.
Right.
Let me share with you a couple things that's happening with it, and you just got to be here, right?
Right.
So then you optimize this for video views, because if you optimize it for 10-second video views,
Right.
you're going to get your best return on investment from the dollar perspective.
Right.
And then what we'll do is we'll take a percentage of video view watch. So let's say 50%. If they're watching 50% of this video, then we're going to build a new audience off of that, because we know we can optimize that.
Right.
We know these people paid enough attention that they're here. Then we run a traffic and engagement campaign, link click to say, hey, come now to the Kickstarter page. It's opening March 1, right?
Right.
Yeah, March 1. Now go. It's going to be a link click. I said that, I'm like,
It's like a week away at this point, and that's why I was talking to him, and I said, I don't know if I can get it together enough. Like, it would be.
We all knew that this was the date.
you know what you ought to do, quite frankly, which would be wicked cool.
Do it from Jamaica.
Do it from Jamaica. Do the
Go
video
live.
assets from Jamaica. Yeah, I mean, not a
Well,
better
it
setup.
should already be. Are you
It
talking
should.
about like postponing the launch date?
Yes. Postpone that and launch it while you're there, so you can totally enjoy it. I'm just saying, because if you have all the assets
It's only
in
4
place-
days later.
I know. But when you're doing your Facebook Live video, maybe do it 3 days after you get there.
Okay.
You're like, hey, check this out for the next 3 days. We're here in Jamaica. We're living it up. By the way, I've got some wicked cool things that are coming your way. I mean, listen, the setting, the outside
Oh
setting,
yeah.
it changed the dynamic of your.
Yeah, you want to do it here?
You
No.
really want to do it out here? You really want to do it in my studio? Sure.
Don't think.
Well,
we
her
haven't thought
office
about
has decent
Yeah,
lighting
but it's
to
her
hide
office.
stuff.
But if she's out hanging out, you're like,
In
check this
Jamaica,
out.
I know,
We're
it's
kicking
like
off this. We're kicking off this
Yeah.
Kickstarter campaign. Run a Facebook Live video for 3 days in a row. We optimize these for 10-second video views. We
So-
build an audience, and then we open that baby up with link clicks.
So did she just do her Facebook Live just like we're talking, and then
Yeah.
you're doing everything else in the background?
Yes.
That's the
That's
plan.
that's what this is.
that's
That's
what
what
I'm
this
saying.
is.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get it. That's what
That's what I said. Let me
She just needs to do the video. Put
I
the
need to do-
Kickstarter
I
campaign
need to get
together.
the Kickstarter campaign up, put all the tiers in there, simplify it as much as I can. And then do the Kickstarter video asset, which
She's
is
gonna be blowing
embedded
her
on
email though.
the
Oh,
Kickstarter
Well, like you're aware of.
campaign.
That-
And then,
that's what we're here for.
but see, that's the thing. They already have all my login information, everything they need. If they see a live video that's doing well, they just pop in and start doing stuff.
We'll have access to your pages and everything before
They
you do
already,
it.
you already.
That's
did.
what our
already
team
do.
does.
Yeah,
we
you
do.
already
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
Well,
so that's what I'm
do
saying.
I have access to
You
your?
gave all
to
the
your ad
logins.
accounts? Okay, good.
Tyler's got it.
I
You
didn't know.
do. Adrian's got it. Yeah, she's, yeah. they
See,
got it, yeah.
I don't even need to know.
Last
See that
round.
you need to operate like I operate with this.
Paying those people
I
to
just
do
pay
it.
my people.
Make
I
you
say,
look good.
go do this, and I'm like, good job.
Right, so that's the point. That's what he's
Am
saying.
I gonna ever run an ad?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. No, we're in
Well,
When I
Jamaica.
say us, I
I
mean
do-
we. Let me know when
I
we're
mean,
done.
like this, right?
Yeah, like that. So we're in Jamaica. I do a live video. They go awesome. They see it hop. All I have to
Yep.
do is they go, okay, awesome. They
You
just
shoot
go
a quick-
into my ad account and they
That's
just set it all up.
You
And
set it up.
Okay, so if you really want to do it, build a timeline because we're going to go home and
Well,
we need to have this written
You
down.
are gonna have to build that because that's part of our Kickstarter consultation assistance.
I will do it. That is what. Listen, that is what I have to do.
I know.
Before I leave, that's
Yeah.
my one
I
focus
know.
is to get this Kickstarter campaign.
But I would say
launched.
let's freaking launch it while you're there so you can enjoy whatever drink of preference.
Yeah,
Watching it just cha-ching, baby.
yeah.
Checking in the mornings like, let's go do that excursion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looking really good.
Let's go.
The only thing that I still have to make decisions on, I've already looked at all the different prices and everything, is, the goal, because I don't want to miss the goal and then not fund the campaign.
Yeah.
So I think,
Set your goal lower
Yeah,
because if
as
you
low as
exceed it,
possible.
We want
it's
to make
fine. You
sure
wanna
there's
make sure
enough
you
meat
get the
on the bone to ship
That's right.
books, be worth her time, be worth your time
right,
Yep.
to pay you,
Yep.
and still make a little something
Yes.
at the end of the day,
Yes.
at worst case scenario.
Yes.
Exponentially at the top end, it doesn't really
at the
matter.
absolute minimum, I don't think I can go any lower than like $15,000 to $18,000. Like I just don't think that it's even worth
It's probably not.
doing.
And as a
that,
matter of fact, I'd
so.
probably set it at like Yeah, set it a little lower because you can recoup these costs even at that lower price point. Whereas if we do all this stuff and then you're like,
That's a
maybe I should have paid that $2,500 for the
Right?
Kickstarter consultation.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're
so
we're
next
marketing
step.
to people we already know will buy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're giving them 30 days to raise the money to buy a book that's a limited time thing, which most of our fan base will buy
Yeah.
anything.
Oh,
I don't care if
they've
you
already
craft
been
inside the
voting.
book and smash the pages together, they'll buy it.
They would. It's true.
Well, the brilliance of what you've done is, like you said, you have your audience already. Now we just need to convert at a high level your audience by leveraging email, organic, and paid
Right.
traffic.
Just
Just
blow
Just
up
drive it.
all of
Just
their.
drive it.
Right.
Just drive it, and then once we figure out what that Kickstarter campaign produces, we'll build some of these other funnels in the website on the back end. Well, because Tyler doesn't run ads either,
Right.
his team will be building the stuff on the back end. And then we can leverage this Kickstarter information, ideas, cash, whatever comes from that,
Right.
and we'll roll that into
Well, and
Optimizing
PDF sales and that
Yeah.
stuff. Those
The
are great things
Kickstarter-
because they're digitally delivered. They're income
Right.
for all of us really easily.
The Kickstarter is really to help me to kind of get some money because, you know, truthfully, with the money that I make month to month and my bills and my kids and my $1,000
Living
medical
on it.
insurance, I'm living on it. So this is all going on credit until it starts to come back around
That's
and
right.
actually make itself money.
That's right.
That's why I said we're gonna have to just bite the bullet and put it on credit cards for a couple months.
Yep.
until I
Until
can
we start,
turn around
yeah.
and pay them off and then start making a profit. But we've got to give it a fair
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
It has to.
Well, Kickstarter is going to be a great way to do it.
Yeah.
And that was
So
the
let's
point.
just let's.
That was why we
and-
decided to
and-
start with it
And I'm
first.
not saying we need to spend tons of time if you're planning on doing it yourself, but let's just talk before you launch live. We won't charge you the full the price at all because we're doing other things with you guys, and we can make up money on the other places that we're doing stuff.
Okay.
But let's at least review it, like take an hour and
Yeah,
review it
you should
before
have some
launch.
input in.
So we
It's
know.
still a marketing
What's going on.
opportunity.
Exactly right.
Even
So
if you're
we
not
know-
directly involved, you're indirectly involved. You
So
need
we
to
know how to launch it appropriately from an ad product perspective, depending on
Right.
what you created, the assets you created, the direction.
Right.
And Tyler's a phenomenal copywriter.
Well, and I
It
was
would
also
behoove
thinking.
you to have him look at
I
those
was
assets.
thinking that maybe in order to tie Patreon into the Kickstarter, I was going to do, if you're a part of my Patreon and you're part of my VIP group, then you get to decide the images that go into the book. And I have great stretch goal ideas too. Like I'm looking at the amount of books that I need to sell. If I only sell so many, then it's going to be a 50-page book. But if we sell 1,000 copies, everybody gets double pages now. Now it's a 100-page book for what you pay for. So I have
Great.
really good
Great
ideas for
idea.
stretch goals and all that stuff. I think I've got that in the bag. And then I was thinking, like I said, for Patreon and VIP group, those were going to be the people that are going to vote. So it's
Yeah.
like, if you want to vote at what's going to be in this book, you know, your favorites or whatever, then become part of my Patreon.
Yeah,
you know,
great.
so I was
So-
going to try to tie all that
So with like
together.
Kickstarter, you can pre-build this before it's published,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
and they could.
So I
We
would
can
say
look
you
at
You
it,
want to
review
review
it.
this
Right.
before we
Yes.
do this because we're getting ready to leave in 2 days. It's time for us to start packing.
Right.
Now's your
Yes.
last opportunity to
But-
have an input and
See, and I've not told anybody on my public page. I've only been talking to my VIP people saying March 1st is the goal. I said I'm going to see if I can get it done, but I've not told anybody else that March 1st is probably the date. So I can go to my VIP group and go, look, you know, we're setting everything up. We're going to launch, you know, probably March 6th or whatever.
Mhm.
And then that gives me a little bit more time to prepare everybody for that link to go live because they want to know when that link is going to go live.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
And we want to do a little bit of a we would love your help concept.
yeah.
Right? So share this. We need you are my VIP group, you're my ambassadors. Yes,
Oh,
come and
they've
donate,
already-
but let's do this together.
They
type thing.
they already
So-
posted. They're like, we can probably share it in our groups too to
That's
help you,
awesome.
you know.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm like, oh, that would be awesome. I really need that.
Okay, so let's do this. Let me send you an additional proposal just for those sections so you have something in writing.
Okay.
For the website funnel build and the traffic and engagement. That's just a recommended ad spend, by the way.
Right.
So if we want to start lower, start higher, we're totally cool with that.
Okay.
And then let's get.
Is
the
there a
ball-
negative? I mean, to interrupt. Is there a benefit to be lower or higher? You know, sometimes you might not get the initial data you might
Optimization.
need for ad dollars at
it's-
500 as
yeah.
opposed to
So
is 15 a better?
great question. So Facebook, from an optimization perspective, Facebook wants 50 to 100 optimizations in order to give you the best cost per acquisition. So depending on how quickly we can get those optimizations, we might be able to do it on $1,000 ad budget. But if we're getting a 4 to 5 times return on investment, then we want to just look at
If
that
it's
and say,
immediately working
if it's immediately
well,
working, let's just bump it up, right?
if-
As long as it's profitable, let's keep. As long as you're getting your X
Cost made.
return on investment, then
Right.
let's just keep putting money into it, even if it's on a credit card,
Right,
because we know that the cash is going to start flowing in,
right,
especially if you've already leveraged that Kickstarter campaign.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
I
that
mean-
would fund, you know, originally it was like March 1st to March 30th, and
Yeah.
it would fund on March 30th, you know, so that would make it easier to just go, oh, okay, well, just, I mean, at that point, I don't think credit cards would even be involved,
Right,
but
right.
I have to, in my mind,
Prepare
go,
for
okay,
that.
this may just need
What
to
if-
be
yeah.
put on credit for right the second until I know it's
Yeah.
not gonna be there for long, I know it's not gonna be.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
like I
you're
said,
gonna-
my Amazon and my Patreon income are already up,
They're
you
growing.
know. but
Well,
I
and
need
you'll
that
see that.
income.
And you'll see that as well as we increase ad budget. You know, going from a $400 to a $1,500
Right.
ad budget spend additional, you'll see an increase in sales.
So do we just want to roll this way, or do we want to try to work in some sort of revenue share percentage? Do we want to talk about a percentage?
we kind of breezed over it. Didn't
I
sound
know
like
we
he was
did.
real
We
interested.
got off track. And then he's
Don't-
very
don't do
interested.
that.
He wasn't coming
Don't-
back
He's
on anything.
extremely
Don't
interested.
take that as I'm not interested.
No,
Yeah.
well,
No, we changed
I
the
had just said that
subject,
the percentage amount
and we didn't go
just
into it.
didn't seem,
But that's
which
because
you
he's
wondered,
only
yeah.
given us a percentage. We haven't given him a percentage
Right.
to consider. That's the problem. The ball is in our court. We talked about it. at the
I threw
meeting.
some ideas out there,
And
but
then we-
I mean,
Well, your original was half the monthly cost, obviously the ad spend stays what it
Mhm.
is, but half the monthly cost and then a 50% revenue share, which I said is, you know, it's probably just a different structure than what I would go with.
Sure,
But it still needs to be motivating enough to where they're going, you know, hey, we just made $15,000 in the last 3 days. How can we make a whole lot more? You know, because they
Right.
have a vested interest in it,
correct.
you know.
The thing that I'm not sure about is I don't know what any of the KPIs or standard,
right.
numbers really
Well,
should
and
be.
that's where
And that's why I'm going, I don't,
know.
because I don't
necessarily
know
that
what
it needs to be
for-
standard. I think it needs to be between all of us in this room and figure out what works for us. Because you're right. You're gonna do all this and build all this, and I'm gonna pay you one time to do this $4,500, and we could part ways in 2 months, and I'm still gonna have all of these assets that you built for me. But there's gonna be measurable data that's gonna come through that they're gonna say, okay, we're taking 20% of this, let's say. Okay, we're taking 20% of this number. That number has to be high enough to know that there's collateral damage over here happening on Amazon and Patreon and all these other
Yeah.
places that aren't measurable, that aren't part of it. That percentage has to be high
it
enough
has to be
to just
calculated
make
for that.
assumptions
Well,
on
and-
that growth.
And I know that in traditional businesses, most of the time, 3% is usually a relative ad budget. Granted,
For
we're talking about
advertising though.
correct.
6%.
This is a little bit more.
6% is your normal ad budget spend. It depends on how aggressive your organization
And
is.
Correct.
it depends on-
Standard across the
Now-
country,
Right.
6%
And
of
I-
your gross
and I know-
revenue is ad budget.
Because I worked in the management side for Majestic. You're right.
Well, management, Majestic doesn't spend anything on it. They spend a small
Their
sliver.
overall advertising budget has
It's about
been between 6 and 9% of their
They're just
their
not spending it
budget.
with you.
which is insane because being part of a 20 group, nationally sharing our numbers, I looked at this and went, why do I not see any of our ads? So when they started working with you guys and going, great job, because
Yeah.
I never heard a radio ad, TV thing, nothing. And I'm going, and you spend how much? You're doubling any other person in our group, and I hear nothing. This is stupid. You're
Yeah.
wasting money.
But
It has come back around. And I heard that he did get some of his costs down, which is good, and definitely more presence. So
Kudos
that's
to
what,
them, yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it's some of you guys, because
Yeah.
you guys are managing them.
We're running all the ad products.
So that's
If
good.
they were
Now
more
knowing,
involved, it would be even better, but they're not. So
no.
that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, it is a different one. But I do know that their business model is slightly different because they
Yeah.
are more of a brick and mortar, and they're
Yes.
you're just trying to drive traffic to them, not drive dollars necessarily to
Yes.
them in the same
Yes.
direction. So I
Yes.
know that those percentages are
Harder to measure
skewed.
the conversions.
Correct.
Right?
it is. It'd be more difficult for them to.
Whereas
determine.
it's
So I'm trying to be realistic in my own numbers of going, I know this side of, I know what I know in this business, but
Yeah.
this is a slightly different business. The
It is,
online
it
market,
is.
I don't
So-
know what's normal.
So let's do this. I've got to get to. I'm coaching my daughter's softball from 3 to 5 today.
Okay.
So I need to run. I want to continue this conversation. So here's what I'll say. I'm going to get together with Coulter. We'll come up with a proposal, send it to you. You guys have a number in mind as well, and let's just come to some sort of a conclusion and figure out what that looks like. Because we want to have vested interest, but we also don't want to fail. I'm a big believer that pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. I don't want to be a hog.
No,
Right.
and that would just get, and she's brought up the same point. It's like,
Right.
she's the artist. This is all her content.
This is her
The
content.
lion's share should always be hers.
I recognize it 100%.
In many companies,
Right.
that's, no, you get the 10%. Like, really? For
Right.
what?
I recognize that.
And at the same time, I'm a firm believer in, if I have a good relationship, I don't trust people what easy. But if I have a good relationship with you, I want to stay with you.
That's right.
And it's like, you've helped get me here. Why would I be at this point? Unless it's something that you just can't handle now because it's of a size that's not
Right.
producing to your company.
Right.
And that's a totally different thing. But
Right.
otherwise,
We can scale.
yeah. Oh, I
We're already
imagine.
scaling.
Yeah, it's every business at scale.
Every business
Easily.
scale.
Once it's up.
So let's do that because I do need to run. It's like
Yeah.
I have like 6 minutes. My wife's like, "You gotta be here." You
You
are the coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know how.
So
that
no,
goes.
I'm all for it.
Okay, Deb, Ty, thanks guys.
All right,
Thank
Hannah.
you guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hannah, I just want to apologize. I just saw your message on Facebook. I was at the doctor's this morning with my daughter, so I didn't see it. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's all
We're
right.
good. We're all connected now.
One for you and one
Oh, you're
for
the best.
Adrian.
Okay.
I'm sure she gets
She's not going to get it this year.
Yeah, she will.
one.
Maybe not right now.
Great.
We gotta run. My wife's. Jeez.
You got to get that volume.
She's got
Bye, guys. Have a great day. Thank you.
With my wife.
Yeah.
She does.
Bye guys.
Get through.
All
Yeah.
right, we're out of here. You sleeping your computer all hooked up? Live play. Just don't even lock it. Just lock it. Right, so don't ever trust it's unlocked. Hacking. That's what you're hacking. No, anything I know, we're trying to look at